Life is war, whether you realize it or not. The question is, are you prepared to fight smart? From Robert Greene's The 33 Strategies of War, this podcast will explore timeless strategies used by history's greatest tacticians, like Napoleon, Sun Tzu, and Caesar, and reveal how these strategies apply to business, relationships, and personal growth today. Ready to outthink, outmaneuver, and outlast your challenges. Stay with us till the end and transform the way you approach every challenge in your life, because winners plan their victories long before the battle begins. Hello everyone, my name is August and welcome to the Shift Perspective podcast. On this channel, we invite you to look at life from a different perspective sourced from books and reliable sources. Hopefully, by changing your perspective, you can find happiness, peace, and inspiration that was once hidden.
All right, ready to dive deep. Today, it's Robert Greene's The 33 Strategies of War.
Ah, military strategy.
Yeah, no, right. But hold on.
Okay.
This book, it's not just about battles, It's about applying those age-old tactics to everyday life, careers, relationships.
The wars we face daily.
Exactly.
So what I find fascinating is how Greene links those historical battles to the psychological battles we all deal with. It's like a playbook for understanding power and outmaneuvering your opponent,
Okay, I'm hooked already. So where do we even begin?
Let's start with, well, this might sound a bit counterintuitive. Declare war on your enemies.
Enemies? Wait a minute, I thought we were talking about everyday life.
Right, of course.
Yeah.
But hold on.
Okay.
Greene isn't saying go pick fights with everyone. It's about identifying those forces that are holding you back.
Oh, okay, I see.
Yeah, whether it's like procrastination, self-doubt, or even, a specific competitor.
So turning those obstacles into motivation.
Exactly. You gain clarity by defining your enemies, and that can fuel your actions.
And Greene uses Margaret Thatcher as an example, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Thatcher, she was a master at using enemies to unite her supporters and get them going.
Right.
She knew the power of having that common opponent.
Okay, but there's a balance, right? We don't want to see enemies everywhere.
Of course not. Greene cautions against, becoming paranoid. It's about that strategic awareness.
And clarity, yes. Paranoia, no.
Exactly.
So we've identified those enemies, but do we engage with all of them?
That's where pick your battles carefully comes in. Greene calls it the perfect economy strategy.
Okay.
It's about, recognizing our limitations and choosing wisely.
Because every battle, every debate, even a career move, it all has costs, right?
Exactly. Time, energy, even damage to your reputation. Sometimes the best move is to hold back, conserve your energy.
Like Queen Elizabeth I, right? She didn't rush into wars. Instead, she built up England's economic power. Yeah, it's a reminder that sometimes the long game is the best game.
Absolutely. It's not always about the fight. Sometimes strategic retreat or even inaction can be just as powerful.
Powerful, yeah. So we've identified our enemies, we're being strategic, but how do we stay motivated in this war?
That's where transforming your war into a crusade comes in.
Crusade, that sounds a bit...
Well, Greene's point is you shift the focus from yourself to a bigger cause.
So like that feeling when you're working on a team project you really believe in?
Yes. It becomes less about you and more about the shared goal. One of the most powerful ways is to emphasize shared interests.
Like Julius Caesar.
Oh, excellent example. He faced a mutiny, right?
Right, but instead of using force, he called his soldiers citizens.
Brilliant. He reminded them they were all in this together, for Rome.
It's interesting how that transforming your war idea plays out personally, too.
Oh, how so?
Well, our internal conflicts, those battles between our desires and fears.
Fascinating. What if we applied this strategy to ourselves?
Instead of viewing it as this constant struggle, what if it's a shared journey?
Towards a greater good, yeah.
Right. A unified effort to be our best selves.
I love that. And sometimes that means reaching out to others who share those values.
Building a support system.
Exactly. It's not just willpower, it's that shared purpose.
That's a powerful way to think about it.
Absolutely. And speaking of powerful, let's shift to a strategy that's all about speed and surprise. The Blitzkrieg strategy.
Okay, now we're talking. But how does that translate to daily life? We can't exactly, roll a tank into the office.
Maybe not literally, but the principles behind it can be incredibly effective.
Okay, like what?
Well, sometimes the best way to achieve your goals is to act swiftly, decisively.
Disrupt the status quo.
Yes. Catch them off guard before they can even react.
Create that element of surprise.
Exactly. Think about the Ardennes forest in World War II. Everyone thought it was impenetrable.
Right.
Which made it the perfect spot for a surprise attack.
So sometimes the most obvious path isn't the most strategic one. But it's not just about brute force, right?
No, it's also about agility, being able to move quickly when the opportunity arises.
Like the North Vietnamese communication network during the Vietnam War, right?
Exactly. They relied on spies and informers.
So they were more agile than the U.S. military.
Yes, even with all its technology.
It's a reminder that sometimes the most effective weapons are the unexpected ones.
Absolutely. But even with a blitzkrieg, you need to know when to stop, consolidate, and avoid overextending yourself.
Right, like Napoleon in Russia.
Oh, a classic case of overreach.
So even in the midst of a blitzkrieg, we need to be mindful.
Absolutely. It demands careful planning, calculated risks.
Okay, so we've got declare war, pick your battles, transform your war, and the blitzkrieg.
We're just getting started.
I'm already seeing how these military concepts apply to everyday life.
That's the beauty of Greene's work.
And there's so much more to explore.
In the next part, we'll delve into even more strategies. Deception, alliances, controlling the emotional battlefield.
I can't wait.
Stay tuned. Things are about to get even more strategic.
I'm ready.
Welcome back. You know, in the last part, we were talking about identifying those enemies and picking our battles carefully. But what happens when you're in the thick of it?
Yeah.
Facing a tough opponent. Greene's got this strategy called hit them where they least expect it. The center of gravity.
Center of gravity. That sounds kind of mysterious. What is it exactly?
Well, imagine a building with a central pillar. You take that pillar out and the whole thing collapses.
Oh, yeah.
So in any conflict, any negotiation, there's a similar pillar, something that gives your opponent their power.
Okay.
It could be resources, their reputation, even a belief they hold dear.
So we're not attacking head-on. We're looking for that pillar and targeting it strategically.
Exactly. Disrupt it, make them question it, weaken it.
Find that weak point.
Yes. Greene talks about Miyamoto Musashi, the Japanese swordsman.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of him.
He won all his duels. Greene says it's because he was so adaptable.
He didn't have just one strategy.
Right. He always adjusted based on his opponent and the situation.
So being flexible is key.
Absolutely. Like Sun Tzu said, victories in battle cannot be repeated. You got to adapt to the circumstances.
That makes sense for a battlefield, but how do we find that center of gravity in everyday life?
Think about a negotiation, right?
Yeah.
There's always something your opponent values most.
Like getting the best price?
Or maintaining their reputation. Maybe even just feeling like they won.
So if I'm negotiating a job offer and I know they're desperate to fill the position.
That could be their center of gravity.
Yeah, I might be able to get a higher salary.
Exactly. You're using their needs strategically to your advantage.
Like chess.
Oh, that's a great analogy.
We're thinking ahead, anticipating their weaknesses.
You got it.
Okay, so we find the center of gravity. But what about our own mental state? How do we stay focused when things get intense?
That's where isolate yourself from the masses, the inner front strategy comes in.
Inner front? What's that?
Think of it as finding that calm in the storm.
Oh, I need that. I get flustered easily.
Well, Greene says if you cultivate that inner detachment, you're not swayed by all the chaos around you.
So not suppressing emotions, but finding that stillness.
Exactly. Our emotions can be our biggest enemy.
They can lead to bad decisions.
Remember that story Greene tells about the Tea Master challenge to a duel?
Oh, by that hot-headed samurai.
The Tea Master stayed calm, did his ritual.
And the samurai backed down.
He was totally thrown off by the Tea Master's serenity.
It shows the power of staying in control.
Yes. Finding that inner strength.
Okay, but sometimes we need to be more proactive, right? We can't always wait for the perfect opportunity.
That's where Greene's seize the initiative, the offensive strategy comes in.
Okay.
Sometimes the best defense is a good offense.
Be proactive.
Exactly. Take control, dictate the terms.
Keep your opponent off balance.
Like Napoleon said, if you're going to take Vienna, take Vienna.
Just go for it.
But remember, there's a line between boldness and recklessness.
Right. We don't want to overextend ourselves.
Exactly. It's about calculated risks, not mindless aggression.
Finding that balance between action and restraint.
Yes. Fortune favors the bold, but preparation meets opportunity.
I think that's especially true in business.
Oh, absolutely. You can't always wait for opportunities.
Gotta make things happen.
That's the spirit. But remember, even when you're being proactive,
we still need to be mindful of the bigger picture.
Absolutely. That leads us to a strategy that's often misunderstood. Occupy the moral high ground. the righteous war strategy.
Righteous war? That sounds a little...
Oh, it's not about being preachy. It's about understanding perception.
Okay.
The side that's seen as just and ethical has a big advantage.
It's about shaping the narrative.
Exactly. We see it all the time in politics.
One candidate tries to make the other look bad.
Right. It can be very powerful, but it's got to be used carefully.
Because it can be abused.
Oh, absolutely. It's a slippery slope. You have to be authentic.
Okay, so what about when you're facing a group of opponents?
That calls for sow seeds of doubt and discontent. The divide and rule strategy.
Divide and conquer.
Classic. Exploit tensions, turn your opponent's allies against each other.
Like Julius Caesar in the Gallic Wars.
He knew if the tribes united, he was in trouble.
So he kept them fighting each other.
Exactly. It's amazing how relevant these strategies still are.
But how do we use divide and conquer ethically?
It's about understanding group dynamics. For example, you're trying to get your team to back your idea.
Right.
Instead of presenting a united front, you might highlight some disagreements.
Get them questioning each other.
Exactly. A little healthy debate can help.
That's pretty clever.
It's about understanding those fault lines.
Yeah. Okay, so we've got declare war, pick your battles, transform your war, the blitzkrieg, center of gravity, inner front, offensive strategy, moral high ground, and divide and rule.
We've covered a lot.
My head is spinning with strategies, but I know there's more.
Let's move on to a strategy all about patience and subtle maneuvering. Maneuver them into weakness. The indirect approach.
This sounds more, I don't know, zen.
It's about realizing the most direct path isn't always the best one. Sometimes you have to take the long way around.
Outsmart your opponent.
Exactly. Liddell Hart said, in strategy, the longest way around is often the shortest way home.
I like that. So, choosing battles carefully, setting traps.
It's like a game of chess.
Yeah.
You're anticipating your opponent's moves.
Leading them into a vulnerable position.
Think about T.E. Lawrence of Arabia in World War I.
He used the desert to his advantage, right?
Instead of direct combat, he hit their supply lines.
Guerrilla warfare.
He tied down a much larger force that way.
It's like he turned the desert into a weapon.
Exactly. And it reminds us that sometimes the most effective strategies are the unconventional ones.
This strategy seems perfect for today's world of cyber attacks.
Oh, absolutely. It's not always about brute force. It's about finding those vulnerabilities.
Exploiting them strategically.
Exactly. The indirect approach is timeless. It works in business, politics, even personal relationships.
It's all about understanding your opponent.
Anticipating their moves.
Playing the long game.
You got it.
I'm seeing how these military strategies can be applied to so many different areas of life.
That's what makes the 33 strategies of war so fascinating.
It's not just about war, it's about understanding power and conflict.
Exactly. So what other strategic gems are waiting for us in the final part of our deep dive?
Tell me, I'm hooked.
We'll explore how to exploit your opponent's psychology, their weaknesses, their blind spots.
Ooh, psychological warfare.
Oh.
I'm ready. Back again for our final push into the 33 strategies of war. We've talked about so much already, but I know there's more, especially when it comes to that psychological side of conflict.
Right. And, one of the most powerful, maybe even controversial strategies that Greene talks about is dominate the emotional battlefield. The control strategy.
Control strategy, that sounds, I don't know, almost manipulative.
Well, it's about understanding the role emotions play in any conflict and using that to your advantage.
Okay.
The master of this strategy can read their opponent, see their emotions.
Anticipate their reactions.
Exactly. Even manipulate those emotions to get what they want.
It's like playing with their mind.
In a way, yes.
Yeah.
You're not just predicting their moves, but their feelings too.
So who was good at this? Historically, I mean...
Well, think about Erwin Rommel, the Desert Fox.
Oh, yeah, the tank commander.
Right, but he wasn't just a brilliant tactician. He was a master of psychological warfare.
Using the desert itself.
Exactly. He kept his tanks moving, using feints and tricks to make the British think he was attacking from one place. Then, bam, he'd hit them somewhere else.
Playing mind games.
Exactly. And he used dust clouds to hide his troops.
Right.
Made them seem bigger, scarier.
It's like he weaponized the environment.
Did. He controlled the emotional battlefield, and that gave him a huge edge.
So sometimes fear is the most powerful weapon.
It can be. Now, another great example is William Tecumseh Sherman during the Civil War.
Oh, tell me about this one.
So he was up against Joseph E. Johnston. Now, Johnston, he was a cautious general. Sherman knew that. So he pretended he was going to attack one way, but secretly, he sent some of his troops to cut off Johnston's supplies and escape routes.
So Johnston had to retreat.
Exactly. Sherman forced him to abandon his strong position, all without a major battle.
Wow, he outmaneuvered him completely.
It's a classic example of controlling the emotional battlefield.
It's like he won the war before it even really started.
You could say that.
Right.
Now, let's shift gears a bit and talk about a strategy that's more about collaboration. Exploit the weaknesses of your rivals, the alliance strategy.
Alliance strategy. So this is about teamwork.
It is. It's about recognizing that even the strongest person benefits from having allies.
Two heads are better than one.
Exactly. By joining forces, you share resources, expand your influence.
Achieve more together.
Right. Think about Lyndon B. Johnson. He was a master at building coalitions.
He got things done in Washington.
Exactly. He knew that to reach his goals, he needed support, even from people who didn't always agree with him.
So it's not just about enemies, it's about making the right friends.
Exactly. Friends who can help you get where you want to go.
So we've talked about offense, but what about defense? How do we protect ourselves from being manipulated?
Greene has a strategy for that too. Strike from a position of strength. The one-upmanship strategy.
One-upmanship. So always being one step ahead.
More like subtly leading your opponent to make mistakes while you stay looking innocent.
Interesting. Like a Jedi mind trick.
In a way, it's using their strengths against them, playing on their insecurities.
Without a direct confrontation.
Exactly. Think about Joan Crawford and Bette Davis, those Hollywood rivals.
Oh yeah, they were always trying to outdo each other.
Crawford was a master of this. She'd be overly nice to her rivals.
Making them look bad.
Exactly. It's a subtle way to chip away at their confidence.
So you watch them closely, see their weaknesses.
And then you strike at just the right moment.
This is starting to feel less like war and more like a game of strategy.
In a way, it is. Greene's point is that these strategies, they apply to life in general.
We've covered so much. Identifying enemies, picking battles, the importance of alliances, and even how to control the emotional battlefield. It's been an incredible journey.
And remember, it's not about being ruthless or manipulative. It's about being strategic, thinking ahead, understanding yourself and the people around you.
I think the biggest takeaway for me is that conflict is a part of life.
It is.
But how we approach it, how we strategize that makes all the difference.
Couldn't said it better myself.
Oh.
So to our listeners, if you're looking to dive deeper into all of this, definitely check out Robert Greene's The 33 Strategies of War.
It's a fascinating read, and I guarantee you'll come away with some valuable insights.
Until next time, keep strategizing, keep learning, and keep winning those battles, whatever they may be.
And that's a wrap on another deep dive.
Being comfortable with yourself is a simple way to be happy. Please comment in the comment section on what lessons you learned from reading this book. If you would like to have the book, please order it from the link in the description section of this video. I take my leave. Don't forget to subscribe to the Shift Perspective YouTube channel. Bye-bye.